Himalayas. Already at the time, when it was conquered by the Europeans, America was already known as America, the country of the winds. There is a way for the people and individuals of Mexico and the world to accelerate their awakening, and that is to travel those arteries at the opportune moment. Astrologically, June 22nd is the summer solstice, marking the arrival of the feminine sign of Cancer. The route to follow is Tepeyac-Tlatelolco. On July 22nd, the sign of Leo, the masculine, enters, and its energy travels from Chapultepec Forest to the Zocalo. September 13th, the fifth element, it fuses the substance and spirit of the Mexican people as a universal nation for the stabilization of the Confederate Government of Nations for the new era, based in Mexico. Reactivated on September 13, 1848, with the defense of Chapultepec by the Niños Heroes, heroic children, who prevented a shameful and grave defeat for Mexico. Furthermore, on September 13, 1968, the cry of silence was given, La Marcha by Regina. 3 days after this date, on September 16, the Grito de 1810 took place. La Independencia Americo Living Trail, 324. So on September 13, the route is simultaneous, with the masculine of Chapultepec Forest toward Avenida Juarez and the feminine of Tepeyac-Tlatelolco Avenida Juarez. It is called the Silent March, but not necessarily a literal silence, but rather a contact with God, our mighty presence, I am. Both polarities converge on Avenida Juarez toward the Zocalo. Later, on December 13, the harvest is collected, and on December 12, the Mexican people deposited in the villa or Tepeyac. The virgins then transported to Tlatelolco, the place of the butterfly woman. For Mexicans, the butterfly is practically the feminine form of the eagle. December 13 is Regina de la Ascensión, el Seno del Son of Man in Heaven. On August 11, 1999, there was a total solar eclipse, and a great cross formed by the planets in the four fixed zodiac signs, Aquarius, Leo, Taurus, Scorpio, appeared in the sky. La Biblia he talks about it. I saw a scroll written within, and on the back Reverend 5:1. It refers to the sacred science of La Astrologia. I saw the four living creatures Reverend 5:6. It refers to La Cruz Fixed. Man is Aquarius, Lion is Leo, Bull is Taurus, Scorpio is Eagle. Nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There will be food shortages and earthquakes from one place to another. All these are the beginning of sorrows and distress. Matthew 24:7-8. Just as the lightning comes from the east and flashes in the west, so will it be La Presencia with the Son of Man. Wherever the carcass is, there the eagles will be gathered together. Matthew 24:27-8. And then the sign of the Son of Man will appear in heaven, and all the tribes of the earth will beat themselves and mourn, and they will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with power and glory. And he will send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they will gather his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. Matthew 24:30-31. Occultists know that a total solar eclipse signals a fundamental transformation of humanity and the governments where the eclipse affects regionally. And to this, we add that this great cross, called the Aquarius Cross, is presented, and that it is only repeated once in millennia. We understand that it is the sign of the Son of Man in heaven macro, just as on earth, micro, where the eagles gather. On the shield of the Mexican flag, an eagle stands out in memory of the encounter with the promised land of the founders of Tenochtitlan, the future capital of Mexico City. Americo Living Trail, 325. All the tribes are the people of Israel, not as a country, but as a symbol of the chosen people, La Humanidad Selecta, that is, of all places, since each tribe are the people who belong to a sign of the zodiac, and as there are 12 signs of the zodiac, there are also 12 tribes of Israel. If it comes on the clouds, it can come by plane, or by mind. From east to west, or from south to north. The great sound of the trumpet is the media, television, radio, books, satellites, etc. The Grand Cross is formed by the opposition of Mars, Scorpio, to Saturn and Jupiter, in Taurus, all of them establishing a 90-degree angle with opposition to Neptune and Uranus, in Aquarius, to the Sun, La Luna and Mercury, in Leo. This seems to be what Nostradamus is referring to in his 10th century, Quatrain 72. In the year 1999 and 7 months, the great king of terror will come from heaven. He will resurrect the great king of Anglemois, over whom Mars will happily rule. It could indeed be an evil king of Mongolia, since Anglemois, without the final S, is an anagram of Mongolia. But it could also be a being enlightened by the divinity belonging to the first ray of will and power. Furthermore, there is a province in France with this name, which suggests the presence of a French avatar, like the Master of La Ferrière Saint-Germain. On August 11, 1999, La Lunate is in parallel with Uranus, which means, in astrological psychology, a fulfillment of God, Uranus, giving a divine sign, the great celestial cross, to his chosen people. Moon. Mercury in Leo, indicates that communication is direct, not with words, but with direct action. Verbal communication is now with life. As a great communications expert says, the medium is the message. Facts are the only scientific argument. Moon opposition Uranus means that many people won't be ready for these new energies. And only those who are aware will join with the conscious, despite the discontent of the majority. It also presents tremors in various places around the world. Moon square Mars. It indicates that there will be war, and many millions will be marked for war from the moment this great cross occurs. There will be mass killings. Violence will increase, women and men will fight. Many murders will occur. Many will lose their homes, and there will be misery due to the violence of the strong over the weak. Moon square Saturn. The world's governments will then be cruel in the name of constitutional laws. They will be relentless toward the powerless, and corruption and abuse of authority will be intensified against the people in the name of the law. Inflexible rules imposed by the clumsy who are also cunning. Sun conjunction Moon. It is a total solar eclipse, where the most evolved, develop higher faculties and the fewest, who are the majority, lose the meaning and purpose of their existence, not knowing how to navigate life. Americo Living Trail, 326. Mars opposition Saturn. The dehumanized humans controlling the war business will establish their most Machiavellian plans. The wicked will call themselves brothers, but they will have no mercy for one another, and the heads of government of one country will be implacable with the heads of other countries, mercilessly applying the rigor of the law, and executing their martial decrees. Always with diplomacy, where it is difficult to maintain the balance of good manners. Sun-Moon parallelism and Mars-Neptune. The voice of the people in the voice of God, but with a universal meaning. The true warrior is the universal lover. God is present for his own. For August 11, 1999. Sun is at 17 degrees Leo, Moon 11.825 degrees Leo, Mercury 29 degrees Cancer at 0 degrees Leo, retrograde, Venus 2 degrees Virgo, retrograde, Mars 16 degrees Scorpio, Jupiter 4 degrees Taurus, Saturn 16 degrees Taurus, Uranus 14 degree Aquarius. Retrograde, Neptune 2 degrees Aquarius, retrograde, Pluto 7 degrees Sagittarius, retrograde, Dragon's Head 12 degrees Leo. Aspects: Uranus opposition Dragon's Tail, Uranus square Saturn, Uranus square Mars, Uranus opposition Moon, Dragon Head and Sun, Mars square Sun, Saturn position Mars, Saturn square Moon, Sun, Venus square Pluto, Venus trine Jupiter, Neptune square Jupiter. Below, we present the horoscope for that date as an appendix. The planets in Taurus are Saturn and Jupiter, which indicates that diplomacy between banks reaches dangerous crises due to excessive ambitions. Saturn opposition Mars, that secretly involve Mars and Scorpio, interests in promoting war, kidnappings and organized crime, to increase the power of the most important banks on the planet, laws related to land ownership, Saturn in Taurus, and the external debt of countries, Jupiter in Taurus, acquire dangerous proportions, and the most powerful countries threaten war in their private sessions between representatives of banks and arms companies. Pornography companies are also present, especially at the end of August. 15 days after August 11th, these secret meetings will begin to discuss the possible experimental use of terrible weapons against the people, such as bacteriological weapons, blood contamination by viruses, that cause diseases like AIDS. Mercury conjunct Moon and square to Mars in Scorpio, and also in square to Jupiter and Saturn. Americo Living Trail, 327. 327. Drugs and organized crime are interested in strengthening their international relations to have more ground to sow their drugs. Neptune square Jupiter, creating fraternities disguised as mysticism or religion. Neptune in Aquarius. There are dangers of earthquakes in many places throughout the year following August 11th, as Uranus is in square. Saturn is in an earth sign and with Mars, indicating that there will be death. Scorpio. On the night of August 11th, the danger increases due to the total solar eclipse. This leaves the world poised for serious catastrophes to occur from now on, within a period of 2 years, affecting large regions of humanity like never before. Many governments will fall victim to abrupt changes. Uranus opposition Sun, also victims of extravagant sexual corruption. Mars square Uranus, and territories will begin to change due to earthquakes. Uranus square Saturn in Taurus. However, in pain, true fraternity will emerge, and masters with paranormal powers will appear, because radioactive processes in the world are accelerated, so that the chosen few will face the world, at the same time, that others will extend, and preserve the appearance of brotherhood with the world and its people, when only secret hatred is what prevails. Uranus square Mars Scorpio. But many will believe in false teachers, only because they boast supernormal powers. The purity of conjugal love will be exalted, with encouraging ideals, but in reality this purity protects secret relationships for material, economic or merely animal interests. Venus in Virgo square, Pluto in Sagittarius and Venus trine Jupiter in Taurus. In We, the Earthquake Generation, Jeffrey Goodman points out the alignment that will occur on May 5, 2000. The Sun, Mercury, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, and the Moon form a conjunction in Taurus. These large planets, such as Jupiter and Saturn, increase solar activity by up to 20%. Ice at the poles, Saturn, threatens the planet's equilibrium. Nostradamus seems to speak of this event when he writes, Day 20 Taurus will tremble. Mars and Mercury and the silver moon. On May 5, 2000 the planetary positions are: Sun 14 degrees Taurus, Moon 26 degrees Taurus, Mercury 9 degrees Taurus, Venus 4 degrees Taurus, Mars 0 degrees Gemini, Jupiter 17 degrees Taurus, Saturn 19 degrees Taurus, Uranus 20 degree Aquarius. Neptune 6 degrees Aquarius, Pluto 12 degrees Sagittarius, Dragon's Head 27 degree Aquarius. Retrograde aspects: Uranus square Jupiter, Neptune square Venus and Mercury. The delicate aspect of multiple conjunctions in Taurus in squares is that the changes affect human psychology the most regarding attachment to material things and territory. Mass immigration of people from one place to another. Uranus square Jupiter, illusionism in the manipulation of the media with false hopes. Neptune square Venus and Mercury. Drug trafficking, Neptune, and terrible seismic movements. Saturn in Taurus, accompanied by all the other planets, are not only physical, but also internal to the human being. Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Jupiter in Taurus. America Living Trail, 328. 328. William Henry and the Return of the Messiah notes that the 13th sign of the zodiac is Ophiuchus, keeper of the serpent. Ophiuchus is the Greek name for Imhotep, who is thought to be the reincarnation of Thoth/Enoch, the Savior. It is located just a few degrees from the center of our galaxy, 27 degrees Sagittarius to 0 degrees Capricorn. Furthermore, the highest point of the pentagram hides a 13-pointed star. There are important numbers such as 666 is the number of the beast, 777 is the number of the Pleiades, 888 is the number of infinite transition or transformation of everything, 999 is the number of Christ. August 11, 1999, marks the resurrection of the King of Kings. Astrologers therefore call this event the Avatar Point. On November 13, 2012, 13 years later, another total eclipse aligned with the 13th constellation of the zodiac, Ophiuchus. By associating Ophiuchus with Charon, a planet located between Uranus and Saturn, the effect of the shaman healer who holds the secret of life is produced. It is the initiation of humanity into the greater mysteries. According to Jose Arguelles and Ray Mardix, this is the moment when we will be closest to the galactic core. A great influx of cosmic energy floods the Earth. The highest energy in the galaxy will be terror for some, and light for others, due to the comet planet called Hercolibus, which is called the beast in the Bible, Apocalypse. It has also been predicted by both orthodox scientists and occultists that the Earth's axis will be righted. Although Crayon assures that this will not be a literal event as it has been in other eras, but rather that only the north-south axis will be relocated magnetically. The astronomical name for the constellation of Fishes is Aesculapius. It is located between Scorpio, death, and Sagittarius, resurrection. It is also known as Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent, or Christus. The secret name of God, the ineffable name is Yvh, which means God the Father, and that has to do with the presence of the Christ of the New Age, that is here and now for those who have eyes, ears, disposition and faith with knowing. Conclusions. Americo Living Trail, 329. The planet is one, it is the home of humanity. At the end of the millennium, we are facing a delicate situation, yet humans always have hope that all will be saved. Perhaps this is the greatest virtue of the human race. The truth is, there's no time to argue about whether what a prophet, scientist, or true sage says is true. It's natural in our hearts to hope that every fatalistic prediction proves wrong. We instinctively wish to fail in anything that could harm the human race. May the world continue to shelter humanity without any crisis disturbing it, without anything bad happening to it. Deep down, we wish for the general well-being, that nothing prophesied brings pain to humanity, that nothing ever comes true. May humanity always have infinite opportunities, and may every good act of a child, a young person, or an old person always guarantee that humanity deserves to survive. It's natural to wish with all our might that we wrong in our predictions, with a sense of doom. But, on the other hand, how wonderful it is to be able to be faithful to the truth, and at the same time, retain all our hopes. What counts is the heart. Therein lies our true feeling. Humanity must survive. Every human being is potentially an infinite and eternal universe. This conclusion is far from calling for punishment for the guilty. As New Age metaphysicians say, may humanity be enveloped in the violet flame, and in love as best we can understand it. Fraternity is a state of consciousness. And it's what higher beings have always grasped. For example, in the book Regina by Antonio Velasco Pina, it is written that engineer Barrio Sierra, rector of La UNAM Mexico in 1968, when the national crisis arose, seriously pondered the reasons why the most rapacious exploited the people. And, in short, he thought, a pirate ship doesn't change its objectives just because it has a few competent and honest officials in its ranks. What is the secret that allows the banal political system to survive, allowing the country to enslave itself? Why are the efforts of good faith officials to renew it always in vain? This response could be summarized in one word: abjection. Both the persistence of official corruption and the frustration of attempts at regeneration stem from a simple fact: the government apparatus operated as an inexorable mechanism, which gradually stripped away even the slightest shred of dignity from all those who collaborated. The country's political organization resembled a kind of enormous pyramid, the ascent of which always implied a loss of integrity, directly proportional to the height reached. The system could afford to allow, up to a certain limit, the rise of honest and capable people, but never beyond. The higher the hierarchy, the greater the degree of servility. That was the fundamental and secret rule that underpinned the functioning of the entire political structure of the party in power. Opposite page 386-7. Indeed, the peoples of the world are awakening here and now. When UNAM fell into crisis in 1968, the reason wasn't the subjects or the specific career paths. The reason was the need of a people to transform and awaken. Evolution is the evolution of consciousness, says a great sage. But when that evolution doesn't really exist and progress is apparent, then we are dealing with a phenomenon called involution. Americo Living Trail, 330. While evolution is a phenomenon that individualizes beings, involution is a phenomenon that drags humanity into unconsciousness and the gregarious instinct. Involution leads toward machine man, while evolution leads toward happiness. There are democracies in the world, based on law institutionalizing or option, that's devolution. That is, the entire social system is controlled by injustice and cruelty. The cunning of the human animal prevails at the cost of losing all dignity. However, in law-edited golden age, evolutionary democracy is universal, and is based on the dignity of each individual. In other words, we are all equal, but there is a hierarchy. If there is no other way, so be it. Sincerely, Americo. This circular gives an idea of all the internal activity I began to develop between May and June 1999. I was thinking of making these pilgrimages, to open special centers in Mexico, related to the world. It was a very special moment, and the only one in my entire life, to reactivate what Regina had begun in 1968 and to fully awaken the sleeping woman, that is, Ixtlahuatl. The first thing I accomplished, was to discover the Aquarius cross in the Mexican Republic, that is, the corresponding cultures and the respective signs in each place in the Mexican Republic, considering that the Aquarius cross consists of 4 fixed signs of the zodiac: knowing, willing, daring, and being silent. These, as we have mentioned, are related to the 4 most important cultures in the history of Mexico. The Mayan culture corresponds to Mérida, and is related to knowledge, Aquarius. The Zapotec and Totonac culture corresponds to the region of the state of Oaxaca and the zodiac sign Cuarar, Taurus. The Toltec and Nahuatl culture is located in Teotihuacan and Tenochtitlan, corresponding to the zodiac sign Azar, Leo. The Olmec culture is located in the states of Veracruz and Tabasco, and corresponds to the zodiac sign Calar, Scorpion Eagle. El Tajin is located in the place that the ancient Aztecs called Aztlan, and can be located in the very center of the Aquarius cross as the 5th element. Another fundamental issue concerns a task that Regina began on June 22, 1968. She was the first to begin reactivating the Pyramid of the Sun in Teotihuacan. After my retirement, I climbed the Pyramid of the Sun with my wife and a small group for the first time. I was received as a solar hero, or enlightened one by the Guardians of the Light, R. Americo Living Trail, 331 Ancestors. I read the book Regina by Antonio Velasco Pina, and then the work by the same author, called The Awakening of Teotihuacan, which describes how Regina initiated the awakening of the Pyramid of the Sun in Teotihuacan, and how the Tibetans continued the work, waiting for the destined one to appear, so that the pyramid would be fully awakened. It was something that caught my attention, especially because the Leo cycle was about to begin. On July 22, 1999, I had discovered that La Señal del Son of Man was about to be fulfilled, and I was now a living part of the main actors in this great drama. I couldn't accept a universal catastrophe and remain still. I needed to try something, because I was aware that, even if a horoscope is terrible, it is nevertheless possible to transform it, if you do the right thing at the right time. So I was willing to act in this cosmic moment, unique in millennia. And so it began in my life, and in those who shared it with me, a magical time called, the Sign of the Son of Man. Americo Living Trail, 332 Quarter. La Señal del Son of Man. The Pilgrimages. La Señal del Son of Man. Introduction. The sign of the Son of Man will appear in heaven 24:30 Matthew, the Aquarian cross. For my part, silence is better, because silence is the highest presence of God who, in the greatest humility and impersonality, touches and possesses everything from the heart of life. The higher God is, the more he places himself in last place, even though he is always the first and the only one. True silence is, knowing how to be silent, and knowing how to speak. A sister told me, when we were on the beach in Mérida, "What's wrong with you, master? Let's leave our things here, on the sand, and nothing will happen to them, because we'll bring a little angel and he'll take care of them." But I'm certain, that these beautiful beings exist, yet I know, that their presence is not enough for the universal plan to be fulfilled. Specific guardians are needed. Americo Living Trail, 333 If little angels are enough, what sense does it make for humans, to decide to incarnate in flesh and blood bodies? There are definitely things they can't do, but only humans and their material deeds can. Angels and humans are 2 sides of the same coin, and so it is with this need, to explain the events I have experienced, like a grain of sand in the cosmic plan for humanity. But if this grain of sand happens to be at the center of all events, then what one of my old teachers once told me is true. In every grain of sand lies everything possible. The event of the formation of the cross of the Son of Man, or Aquarius cross in the sky, is approaching for August 1999. And at the same time, I discovered that, within the Mexican Republic, where I was lucky enough to be born, 4 important zones or regions marked the same cross with its 4 sacred traditions of wisdom. In the east the Olmecs were influenced by Scorpio. In the west the Zapotecs and Mixtecs influenced by Taurus. In the south the Mayans influenced by Aquarius. And in the north the Toltec and Nahuatl culture influenced by Leo. All of them under the rule of the 4 archangels, Gabriel, Raphael, Uriel, and Michael. Well, what if the sign of the Son of Man is formed in heaven, and on earth there is someone who dares to use this sacred energy to serve as a channel? Wouldn't this be useful for accelerating our own evolution and that of humanity? It must certainly be so. Only a pure heart can contemplate the truth at the very moment of emergency. Because when it comes to facts, everything is as relative as each human's perspective. Truth demands scientific proof, and the layman seeks it outside. It is well known that envy often drives these reasonable judgments. This prejudice, and many others, is influenced by what psychologists call the personal self. It is this distortion of the real human being that opposes the truth, or at least attempts to do so that some may suffer from suspicion toward those who show signs of seeking to become famous or simply be happy, to attain well-being. As ignorant humans, we tend to question destructively more easily than any other animal on planet Earth. No one hides anything, Gurdjieff teaches. And, yet the blind person does not accept the truth. To judge someone or something by their facts and be impartial, it is necessary to have experienced those facts in our own world. This is what makes us true scientists, that is, thinkers who base their judgments not on reason, but on being, and the eternal present. Indeed, reason is only an instrument for storing information, not for generating it, as scientific dogma has led us to believe. But on the other hand, wisdom teaches that the greater the authentic scientific development, the more humble, simple, and impartially open human beings become to reality as it is, not as it appears. It is in these thinkers that truth, precisely because it corresponds to real facts, is an experience that ceases to be external, and is realized internally. It wasn't necessary to travel across the world to fulfill the Aquarian cross on the planet. That's what the Christs of the New Age are for, the earthly and celestial avatars. Also, the ascended masters who oversee the flourishing of humanity, and even the white hierarchy that internally governs the kingdoms of nature. Americo Living Trail, 334. But with my grain of sand I can do wonders, and as Lao Tzu says, without looking out the window, the wise man contemplates the universe. It was not necessary to leave my country to conquer humanity. Cuauhtémoc, the last emperor and royal initiate of Mexico, in his quest to save Mexico, became the savior of the world. Similarly, in the New Age, loving humanity is not alien to loving Mexico, to help save it. Not with weapons, but with the attraction of cosmic energies incarnated in human events. Personal and cosmic ambition are unified, when we discover that reality is our own world. The only desire is the same one explained by Dr. Serge Reynaud de la Ferrière, a high initiate for our times. When asked, "Why are you making your trip to India and Tibet? What are your motives?" he answers, "The only thing that inspires me is to make a wonderful and unique trip." And that's what I understood when I decided to undertake this experience. I'm an Aquarius missionary and that is enough. To be honest, I don't feel I'm up to the standard of a New Age Christ, so the title of Aquarian missionary is something I greatly respect. It requires true mastery, much study, developed superhuman powers, etc. And I, in my capacity as a human being, a man among men, at most consider myself a lesser brother, as the sublime elder brother, José Manuel Estrada, was in his time. The purpose of the Order of Friars Minor is to safeguard the established order, as established by the New Age plan and its avatars. As Jesus Christ says, if they are not against us, then they are for us. This means that no one who is intelligent is bothered by a brother forming an order. On the contrary, wise Tibetans teach, 1,000 monks, 1,000 religions. What matters is keeping our minds open and sharing ideas. This is universal brotherhood. Dr. de la Ferrière says, true brotherhood is based on tolerance and patience. But, who is this who dares to free himself from all institution, and pretends to bring down the celestial Aquarius cross to the terrestrial, as only the Son of Man can do? I'm yourself. Simply a brother, who, being an enthusiastic student of yoga, the practitioner of meditation and vegetarianism, abstained from alcohol, cigarettes, and other vices. And with a great desire to discover the fundamental truth of what it is that degenerates humanity, including brothers I considered spiritual, and whom I saw crumble due to the temptations of the world. Deceived in 1,000 ways, subject to the vices, primarily of carnal sex, money, and power. One day I withdrew from the world without even leaving the city. At first, I didn't want to admit that I was retired for the love of an honest, loyal, and true partner. It was a selfish and very human goal, although always connected to the cosmic. So, it was a selfishness that I have to call impersonal selfishness. The only true goal was, and is for me, to remain free and happy, no matter what the cost, and for that happiness to last into eternity. As I discovered that something very serious was complicating or preventing humanity from achieving its liberation and well-being, the retreat became more serious, and I realized that I was there driven by higher forces. The reason for this written review is love. Americo Living Trail, 335. 335. To love is to love consciously, because love is not a casual result of mere sympathy or whim. As the great masters teach, love is a cultivated entity. When we enter the living path, we participate in a sacred journey. We do this by developing conscious love. Otherwise, this journey is impossible. In this realization, it is inevitable to be a mystic, without ceasing to be a scientist. Mysticism is an intimate experience, as is true love. And it is in this intimate relationship that we recognize one another. The lover recognizes his beloved, the disciple recognizes his master. Because love is everything, and there is no time for mechanical reasoning. This does not mean that we should stop thinking, nor that we should stop being scientists, but rather that we should learn to develop as true scientists. In short, what the sign of the Son of Man is about is precipitating the celestial Aquarius cross upon the world through the land of the Eagles, Mexico. This is possible, primarily because so many pilgrims have come before us, keeping alive the flame of royal wisdom, and preserving the truly sacred places undisturbed. We have come to stand on the shoulders of giants, and for this reason it would be absurd to believe ourselves to be giants. Those who come to us in the future are the ones who truly make pilgrimages and lift up humanity. We must give our recognition to those who built sacred centers throughout our planet, those who rediscovered them, those who defended them, and those who realized and reactivated them. On what authority do I dare to make biblical references throughout the text, relating them to this pilgrimage? For that, we turn to chapter 11. 27-33 of Mark. By what authority do you do these things? The Pharisees asked Jesus to test him. And the teacher answers, John's baptism, was it from heaven or from men? If we say, from heaven, the Pharisees asked, Christ would say, then, why did they not believe him? And if we say, from men? The Pharisees were afraid of the crowds who recognized in John a prophet. The connection between this chronicle and the sacred will be evident to anyone with an open mind. They are realizations that are fulfilled through those who witness these events, and they can also be fulfilled within the world of those who can understand. If this is so, then surely they and I are one and the same. This is why Quetzalcoatl and Jesus Christ mean, in short, the same thing, the center of the universe being the owner of our own world. First pilgrimage. Potrero Tlatelolco Zacalo. June 22, 1999. Background. Plaza of the Three Cultures, Tlatelolco. Americo Living Trail, 336. 336. The founding of Tlatelolco took place in the year Cali, 1337 AD, by a group of dissident Aztecs from Chapultepec. The occupation of the island arose due to the constant political and population problems of the group, that was united in the year 1317 AD. Furthermore, we find information in the annals of this group, which coincide with the date of the city's establishment around 1337, 12 years after the founding of Mexico City, Tenochtitlan around 1325. As time passed, and after settling on the island, its population dedicated itself mainly to farm work, and later to trade, a situation that allowed them to acquire economic and political strength, although it is important to mention that initially Tlatelolco and Tenochtitlan served as mercenaries to the lordship of Azcapotzalco. With the colonization of the island of Tlatelolco, hostility and rivalry began between the two island cities, Mexico Tenochtitlan and Tlatelolco, due to the former's military supremacy and the latter's commercial supremacy. Furthermore, Tlatelolco was always linked to the Tepanec lineage, as three of its rulers were Tepanec, and Mexico Tenochtitlan was associated with the Culhuel lineage. Commercial and military expansion eventually fostered the importance of both cities, until the conquest in 1521. At the end of the 14th century, in 1375, Tenochtitlan conquered Tlatelolco. This situation allowed them to be unified and known as Mexico Tenochtitlan and Tlatelolco, governed by a Tlatoani Tenochca. Archaeologically speaking, Tlatelolco was the subject of two major excavation seasons since 1946. Mexico as a whole was made up of three islands, Nonoco and Tlatelolco in the north, and Tenochtitlan in the center of Lake Texcoco. The neighborhoods of Tlatelolco from east to west were called Mecamalinco, Atenantitlan, Tequipahuaca. The latter was the place where Cuauhtémoc surrendered to Cortés. In a house in the subdivisions called Amayac, the resistance had ended, and when the last point defended by the emperor fell, Telpachacaltitlan, currently Santa Lucia, Cuauhtémoc disembarked to continue the resistance on the mainland, being captured and taken before Cortés. There he asked to be killed for not knowing how to defend his city. This was the old Tenochtitlan. In the year 1325, 11th house, from the marshy ground of an islet populated by cactus and tullers, emerged the primitive seat of the Aztecs, today Mexico City. Mexico Tenochtitlan means in Nahuatl, the divine tunnel, where Mexictli is, the navel of the moon, or more properly the sun of the moon. Americo Living Trail, 337, and La India. During his sacred pilgrimages to Master Reynald La Ferriere was baptized as son of La Luna. Mexico, where Mixif is, the son of the moon and the Sunday. Constitution Square. It is also known as the Main Square, Palace Square, Plaza Mayor, Plaza de Armas, and Zocalo. It constitutes the most traditional and important public space in the annals of the nation. It is surrounded on three sides by the National Palace, seat of the executive branch of La Union, the buildings of the government of the Federal District, and La Catedral Metropolitana, seat of ecclesiastical power. There the people have gathered, in the religious ceremonies of ancient Mexico, in the journals of the viceroys, the proclamations of the kings and the festivities of Holy Week and Corpus Christi, in the colonial era, in the celebrations of September 15th, in the military parades of the 16th, and in the sports of November 20th, on the days of the flag, February 24, of Labor, May 1st, an oath of the conscripts, May 5th, as well as the receptions of the monarchs and heads of state from abroad, and on the occasion of serious political problems and student demonstrations. The plaza is, in short, the place where the people gather, to show their joy or their discontent. Pre-Hispanic era. It was during the time of King Itzcoatl, 1428–1440, and with the help of Netzahualcoatl, when the urban layout of Mexico Tenochtitlan was defined, especially its ceremonial center. The Great Teocalli was the main building. It was located at the corner of present-day Guatemala Street, Seminario Street, and Argentina Street, where its ruins have been explored and consolidated. The pyramid, with a rectangular base, would have measured 100 metros from north to south and 80 metros from east to west, not including the platforms with serpent sculptures, similar to the one at Tenayuca. At the top, 1,030 meters high, are two temples, the northern one dedicated to Tlaloc, god of rain and agriculture, painted with blue and white stripes, and the southern one to Huitzilopochtli, god of war, decorated with white spheres and skulls on a red background. Both are depicted on walls in the shape of pyramid trunks, the first adorned with stylized snails and the second butterflies. Both temples had inside the statues of the gods on pedestals with shell and turquoise mosaics, on the corners of the slopes, and on the upper esplanade there were large incense burners for copal, and facing the entrance, the sacrificial stones. Opposite the great temple stood a Quetzalcoatl temple, dedicated to Etecatl, the god of the wind. It had a circular floor plan, and was placed on a rectangular structure with high relief on the stair walls on all four sides. Between this building and the entrance to the Americo Living Trail, 338 Tlala Causeway, cut by the imaginary blade of the solar path, were the two parallel gates of the ball court. Also nearby were the Temple of the Sun, the Temple of Vopico, and the Temple of Tamalaketl, where the gladiatorial sacrifice took place. In the northwest corner of the enclosure was the Cordia Kali, the broad base of the temples of the minor gods. At the southern end was the pyramid of Tixcatlipoca, with a base of 100 meters 20 meters and a staircase of 80 steps. Other buildings included the Tepoch Kali, a college for boys, the House of the Eagles, for the military order of that class, the Sihuadia Kali, a temple for women, the Servants' House of Mixcoatl, Cloud Serpent Lion, and the altar of Armatochli, 2 rabbits. In places near the temples and shrines, there were rooms for the priests and their assistants. Outside the wall lay the plaza itself, but integrated into the rest of the complex. It was bordered to the east by the Palace of Moctezuma, where the great administrators' families resided, with numerous rooms, patios, baths, and the throne room, to the south by an irrigation ditch bordered by the nobles' houses, to the west by the grain storehouse, Patlacalco, and the houses of the stewards, Calpixcacali, the singers and dancers, Mixcocali, and the captives' houses, Malcali, and by the palace of Axayacatl or Casas Vijas, present-day National Mundidipedid, where the Lord's treasury was kept, and to the north by the Cohuatapantli wall. The main temple of Tenochtitlan, the great temple of the Mexica, constitutes the heart and origin of what is now Mexico City. Located in the center of what would become the city of Tenochtitlan, it represented the navel or fundamental center of the Aztec worldview. The 4 directions of the universe originated from it. It was the place through which one ascended to the celestial levels, or 13 heavens, and at the same time, it was the site through which one descended to the deepest levels, or underworld. Thus, the Great Temple was not only the main temple, at the top of which stood Tlaloc and Huitzilopochtli, gods of water and war, respectively, but it also symbolized 2 of the main Nahua myths. It was, in short, the sacred place par excellence. To understand the symbolism of the Templo Mayor, it is necessary to resort to archaeological data and the Nahua myths or legends that we know, such as the birth of Huitzilopochtli. From this it follows that, for the Mexica, the Templo Mayor represents 2 hills, one dedicated to Tlaloc, who is worshipped at the top of the hills, and is thus represented in the Borbonic Codex, and the other side, that of Huitzilopochtli, is a specific hill, the hill of Cotepec, where the birth of the god who will fight against his sister Coalxauqui takes place. The Mexica once again reproduce all of this in Cotepec. The Templo Mayor will be the hill itself with its serpent heads, that give it its name. Cotepec means Hill of the Serpent. The protagonists of the fight are located in the place that the myth has in store for them, Huitzilopochtli above, at the top of the temple hill, while Coalxauqui lies at its foot, decapitated and dismembered. Americo Living Trail, 339. These sacrifices, repeated 1,001 times in the Great Temple, are nothing more than the brutal and senseless reenactment of the myth. The daily presence of the moon between light and darkness, between day and night, means that these sacrifices repeat what happened in a mythical time, the daily birth of the sun, the emergence of the warrior god. And not only that, but the presence of both gods in the upper part of the Templo Mayor are indicators of the economic needs of the Mexica, which were based on 2 fundamental aspects. On the one hand, agricultural production, hence the importance of water, Tlaloc; on the other, war as a means of supplying a tribute, imposed by military conquest, from which derives the importance of Huitzilopochtli as god of war. These objects reaffirm what was previously stated: the Great Temple is not only a living myth, but also a group's need for survival. Tlaloc and Huitzilopochtli, water and war, life and death, resurrection, all captured in a reality. The Great Temple of Tenochtitlan. Pilgrimage, the village, Tepeaxicalo. June 22, 1999, summer solstice. By way of prologue. Female mystery. I want to pause here, to talk a little about the life of my wife and soulmate. She plays a central role in the pilgrimage I undertake on this date. With a single act, she already manifested an apostolate for humanity. But such an event, related to her, would not be the only one, but merely the beginning of others. All of this is hidden in the human life of a woman as seemingly normal, simple, and full of flaws as any other. She spoke little of her adolescent poems, but some of them are surprising, when one grasps the profound meaning hidden behind the words, which almost any poet can arrange in prose. But what is difficult is to discover the soul of what is written. Like the one that deals with time, dreams, and reality, lies, or destiny. Which, with her permission, I add to my autobiography. As well as dreams and confidences. Americo Living Trail, 340 that I wish to mention here, because they actually have a direct bearing on me, as well as on her roots, her childhood, and her children. And, particularly I was struck by the fact that her parents were related to a town called La Gloria, and that her mother, coincidentally, was named Maya, the same name as Buddha's mother. All of which would not be so important, if I had not experienced such esoteric matters in my life. Furthermore, her becoming a virtual queen on this first pilgrimage, would be a powerful impulse for everyone else on this sacred mission. Therefore, and to help a little to unravel the mystery of the importance of the life of women on the path of the initiate, I consider it necessary to know at least a little about the life of this advanced disciple and wife. 1 Poems. In known time we are death in this life, for we carry no dreams, for we fear goodbye, and losing for no reason. We are winters in spring. We are happy in this pain. We are stones that roll and roll. We are tears and anguish in love. We are futures in a past. We are the time that has already passed. We are here when we have already left. We have returned when everything is over. We are memories in the forgotten. Thoughts that drift in the air. Songs of snow that linger wounded. In the live truth. We are then, in this moment, travelers without space or place. We are snow from fire, sand from the sea. Star without a firmament. Bonds that unite but also vanish. We are, in short, nothing in everything. We are beauty in ugliness. We are paths in the desert. We are something in eternity, written in 1972. Dream reality. Once I thought, the things of this life are a dream. And in that dream I felt the emotions of other lives. And I felt the fog of a wounded heart, drowned in the desire to cry. And I lived in the era of a deafened world, which was anguished, even when it came to love. And I saw a red sky, far far away, that only invited me, come. Come wake up. And I felt the path filled with thistles and thorns. And I returned to the center of my being. And I saw everything in silence, so black and dark. And I believed all that would never dawn. And I saw the star close to nothingness. And I saw failure reborn. And I saw your light seated on my lap. And I saw a sword waiting for a place. And I saw your arms outlined in my embrace. And I saw your face searching for the truth. And I saw the silence our lips hold. And I saw your tear about to shed. And I saw, far away, the unspoken anguish. The unsought absence, that is about to arrive. And then, in my already lost sanity, I formed love stories of bitter delusions. And I thought the world was going mad. And I saw everything far away. As distant as a dream. And then I realized that dawn was coming, written in 1982. Time of existence. I have searched, and have not found anything that makes me happy. Could it be that I have not existed in this time, and in this life? Could it be that everything passes like a tape before perception? To those of us who are dead, and believe we still live. Could it be that I have fallen from time into this space and this place? But that I'm the shadow of someone who no longer lives. I have searched, and have not found. Could it be that I no longer exist? 1984. My Americo Living Trail, 341. I love laughter, and I love the song of the great countryside, of the light of truth. I love people, I love the grass, I love the pores of eternity. I love the man who lies. Because behind all that, he seeks his truth. I search the faces of strollers and I always find the same thing, so much loneliness. Behind each person's mask, I always find the same thing, people who doubt, even their own truth. Destination. Today I have remembered, so many things from my life. Distant dreams and sighs, sterile and lifeless. And I have also remembered things from the present, which have also left my soul alone and absent. And I have remembered oblivion and forgotten happiness. And I have sighed for a sigh, and loved in unreality. But I must find a path, which perhaps will lead me to blossom. And I will continue along it, even if it is winter. Until my soul is reborn again. I will remember from a memory things about myself, in this present. Of my voyages on land. Of the unrealities and sighs. And I will continue along this winter path, until I find my destiny. And I will forget the memories, and remember the forgotten ones. And I will praise the stars, because at the end of the task, my heart has blossomed roses, and this has been a torment, like a bed of roses. I have breathed in their perfume and fragrance. I have felt the softness of their petals. But I have also felt their thorns sticking into my body. So, on this day, I have compared love to a rose, which sometimes wounds us, and other times caresses us, intoxicating us with its fragrance and subtlety. Precious to the human senses, whoever does not allow themselves to be taken away by these, even if they lose a drop or the entire contents of their heart. 1984. 2 Vive Dreams. March Diamond. I was walking through the desert. I felt a kind of heat, and in front of me, I was searching for something like water, something because I was thirsty. Then, as I was walking, I saw a diamond, but it wasn't small enough to fit in my hand. It was a very large diamond. I was lying on the desert sand. And I could see this diamond, which was about 40 or 50 centimeters tall. It was a white diamond, or rather, transparent, like a precious stone. Like crystal. It had that faceted shape ending in a point. And when I saw it, I felt myself reaching out to reach it. I didn't notice it walking, but I got closer, and everything became bright until the image disappeared, and I woke up. That memory stayed with me, and I thought about the preciousness of the diamond, even while I was awake. Although I was tired, because I'd felt very thirsty, while walking through my dream in the desert, I sensed I was on a spiritual quest, and I physically arrived at a bookstore where I found a cover that featured the very diamond I'd dreamed of. The book was also called The Diamond. All of which had a strong impact on me. I bought the book, and it referred to spiritual teachings, 1984-85. The Table of Wisdom and Violet Substance. In another dream, I felt like I was in Egypt. It was when I was doing my Rosicrucian practices. I realized it was a temple, and in a distinct time. It was a chamber that wasn't closed but rather open air. They were going down a very wide area, and I was wearing the kind of garment. There were some steps to go down. It was a large rectangular area, and it descended like steps. The sensation is like when you slowly go down the steps to enter a pool. And it was as if your body was entering a liquid, but this wasn't exactly a liquid, because I didn't even feel wet. It was more like a mist, and the sensation I had meant that it was a ceremonial act, something very solemn. That substance was a very deep violet color. And Americo Living Trail, 342. I came to perceive that among this substance, was a table with important figures seated. They were waiting for me to take my place, so I could join in on what they were doing. And that's where my dream ends. The diamond in the heart of the Ixtlahuatl. There was another occasion, when we were going to the Mart neighborhood, there with Lionel, the prime of life, 1999 to 2000. We were meditating on the country, on the world. And I saw a diamond coming toward me. An energy or something in it brings it. As I grew up, I reached out and received it. It was also a very beautiful diamond that I could hold in my hands, because it wasn't so small. And it emitted a lot of light. I held it in both hands. At first, I wondered why I had this diamond. And I immediately brought it close to my chest, and held it there for a while. Then I thought I had to place it somewhere. That I shouldn't keep it for myself, but that I had to give it to humanity. Since I live in Mexico, and in the state of Puebla, we have volcanoes, Popocatépetl and Ixtlahuatl. We call Ixtlahuatl the sleeping woman. And I thought I had to place it at chest level with this great volcano. So, in my meditation, I placed it there. Also, because at that time, it was 1999, and there were very difficult situations. That was when the Great Aquarian Cross appeared in the sky, around August, and Popocatépetl was still emitting large fumaroles. All of this added to the fact that there was great tension in Mexico City, and around the world, due to things that could happen. That's why I thought it was good for this diamond to remain there. It's known throughout our history that this is the volcano that is the guardian of our people Mexico. The world is reborn as a baby. There was another meditation there with Lionel. We were a group of about 25 people. We were sitting and meditating. And when I started meditating, I began to feel nauseous. But it was nausea, like when you were pregnant. To the point that I felt the need to get up and run to the bathroom, due to the strong urge to vomit. But I breathed and controlled myself. Little by little, the nausea passed, and I calmed down. But I realized that it really was a pregnancy until a being was born. I can't say if it was a boy or a girl. But it really was born. I felt it was a child, because I even heard a child's laughter. It was the laughter of a child, a baby. Because it had already been born, and we know what the baby looks like when it laughs. I mean, we can easily distinguish its laughter. It's not an adult. So, yes, it was born, and it's smiling now. Where do I put it? I thought. I mean, what was I going to do with this child? And that's when I decided it had to come into the world. So I took it energetically, because I didn't see his body well. And while I had initially felt like a baby, now I perceived him as a little older. And I said, I have to put him in the world, at the center of where we were. Later, when we came out of meditation, we were all talking about our experiences. I thought it was good to say that, because it seemed important to me. I said it, but then someone mentioned that they had also heard the laughter of a child who was walking around in the room where we had meditated. That convinced me that I wasn't hallucinating, but that a child had really manifested. The magic town. On another occasion, when the group was headed toward the town of Lionel, there was a moment when our vehicle headed down a small, slightly narrower road. I felt then that the vibration was changing. We were in a pickup truck. There were about 8 of us, I think. And when we turned onto that road, I began to feel like another dimension of time and space. In other words, everything felt different. And then, a fog began to grow and began to fall over the place, even though we were on the road. It was a clear sensation that we were passing to another place. All of this, before we reached the town. And I commented, I think we're already passing into the 4th dimension. It's something you feel, because the atmosphere changes. Then, we enter the town, which is very rustic, but very beautiful. And at that moment, you feel something very different. I mean, I don't think it's the place, but rather the moment. So, everyone and I were saying that we had arrived somewhere else. That's why we were all happy. Really. It was a feeling of bliss. We were all incredibly happy, but I felt it was because of that. And when we were already in the town, the fog dispersed. It was as if we had passed through a portal. Americo Living Trail, 343, to another place. Although everything seemed normal as we went to meet the people we were looking for there, the center of the galaxy, and Master Balthazar in another meditation, it was also with Lionel. We were in a group doing some exercises, and we had a chat and all that. Then, after finishing an exercise, we hugged in a circle. We were happy and still had our eyes closed, because we were still in the meditation. And I saw that there was a being in the middle of everyone. But we weren't just here hugging in a circle. In reality, we were at the center of the galaxy, where the black hole supposedly is. Because I knew it was the center of the galaxy, and in that place there was a being who was happy, very happy. And it was as if he were floating, like when you jump on a trampoline and bounce over and over again. He was like that. I immediately remembered his name. His name was Balthazar. But he was also dark-skinned, kind of chubby. And I said, oh, but kind of dark-skinned. You expect someone white. But no, he was there with his beard. His face was brimming with joy. And it came to me that he lived there, in the center of the galaxy, and his name was that. Then we opened our eyes. Then, I don't remember if that day or later, we had some little books. Those that gave us information about contacts and channelings. And it so happened that, in those pages, I found that there was indeed a being named Balthazar. These were those notes on channelings, that are later uploaded to the internet. It said there was a being named Balthazar. That shocked me. My master Aurobindo. On another occasion, one of my still young children was having a difficult time. A being told me he was there to protect me. And then I saw him form a circle, like a fiery one, that protected me and my son, who in that dream must have been about 6 years old. And I saw him protecting us with that circle. He then told me he'd known me for a long time, and wanted to protect me. I don't remember exactly when he made it clear to me, I'm Aurobindo. It was a name I hadn't heard before. I'd never read anything about him,